I gotta charge my computer.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
St. Patty's Day?
Oh, I was just gonna ask if you'd send me the Spotify playlist.
Oh,
It is.
Not that I like can listen to it between now and
That's
then.
why we were listening to St. Patrick's Day.
oh, yeah.
How do
you send your Spotify?
No green clothes.
Oh, look at you.
Oh!
But I didn't want to wear
Oh!
it.
Did you do this on? You, of course, you did it on purpose.
Jack needs some attention.
Green,
Good job.
green,
Good job.
green, green.
Let's not be too late.
This is green if you're color.
Yeah, fuck you.
Alright guys, let's get started.
I also
Because we're
have
still
this
missing
green
like
one.
8. Alright, so we all have we're just going to talk about some business first, okay? So we have those health presentations coming up, right? You all know which groups you're in? So general health is Cody Bowers, Chelsea Ham, Jim
Chelsea, what?
Helm,
That was close one.
Cham.
I'll take
Cham.
Cham, but I will not take Cham.
Cham. Okay, drugs is Alexander Ali Smither, Jeffrey Hahn, Martin Pierre, Focus Disorders, Ian Cobiara, Alex Rosen, Nick Sanders, and Marie Stanley. Boo Boos is Joey, Hannah, Nadia, Ricardo. Neurological disorders, Tommy McKendall, Michael Hewitt, and Too Much Party Cancer. That's my favorite title. Joanna and Lydia and Jack. Okay, everybody got that? Yeah. And so you know what days those are on, right? They're listed up here. Oh yeah.
Why stick your tail up like that?
Oh, are all three of those on the same day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Oh, cool.
So, and notice, okay, so yours is supposed to be, which one are you on,
I
Jack?
have too much party.
Okay, yours is supposed to be 20 minutes. Okay, so some of them are 30,
Oh, got it.
because there's more material. Okay, but the ones that are longer have more people.
Okay.
Okay, and you're also supposed to make a handout for the class so that they have information about what you're talking about.
Okay.
So that everybody has like a packet of things.
And then do like a PowerPoint.
You can do a PowerPoint if you want. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. But if you have a PowerPoint, make sure you have the right adapters and everything so you
Can we show some videos if they're like really informative?
Yeah. Well, and so in the health presentations folder on Google Drive, I put this link to Dr. Bastian vocal health videos, and those are like really, really good to consult.
Cool.
Okay,
Too much party.
too much party. Don't do it, it messes up your voice. All right, so then for the test corrections, I know I told you to do them by next Tuesday, but I'll just make them so you just have to do them by the end of the semester, but I'm gonna stop reminding people about them. And then we have to vote if it's okay to do test corrections on the last test too. Is anybody against that?
The final?
No, this test, right?
This last test, we have to vote every time.
I see.
The last test is on Tuesday?
No,
No,
sorry.
the
Okay.
previous test.
The
one
test
that
we
you
just had that I gave you back last class. Okay.
Empty.
Does anybody oppose giving people test corrections so that they can get half the points?
I don't.
Yeah, I
Alright.
didn't.
No, awesome.
It's being covered.
Sweet, so you guys can do that. I'm not gonna make a due date, but you have to give them to me before finals week.
Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
That's the due date.
And it's like, you get half the point back, is that right?
You get half the points, but you have to explain more to me about it than you would if you just answered the
What
question.
if it's things like where we just got like a name wrong but pointed here, it's like,
Bro's not
how do
here.
we explain that better than just, oh, it's that one?
Well, look up some information about it and tell me about it. You know what I mean? So it's supposed to be
Just
so that
define
it's harder than just like answering the question. Right? Okay. And so that'll still be up to like my discretion how well you did with all that stuff, right? Because if you get it wrong, I can't give you the points for it. Okay.
Fair.
Great, but you can look it up because it's like open book. Okay, good. And then, so for our final paper, remember, we are looking at the papers that you wrote initially, and then you're correcting those on your own using the information that we used in the class, right?
Does it need to necessarily be any longer or just corrected?
Yeah, it has to be like 5 pages.
Oh, like paper. Okay, so we're like summarizing.
This is not this is instead of taking a final, right?
Got it.
I love that.
And we can talk more about that when we get closer to it.
Yeah, it's not that far away. It's only like 6 weeks.
Well, that was a long time.
When is it
Chris,
due?
you know we're not
Is
gonna.
the last
It's
day?
due at the last day of finals.
Right.
And that one you can email to me if you're out of town.
Amazing.
Okay.
Do we need to
Oh,
include
But
material?
also remember, you have to cite some sources from the books that are on reserve in the library.
Oh,
Okay?
do we need to our incorrect material from the first paper, or can we just rewrite it? Like, does it have to be like, I said this one time and it was wrong, and here's the right thing?
You can if you want to.
But we
But the point, like, I want you to expand upon what your paper was saying, and I want to know what your misconceptions were that you've learned about in the past. Do you know what I mean?
Got it.
So the point is basically telling you what you learned that you didn't know before.
Got it. So we don't necessarily have to prove that we're expanding on the previous paper, we just have to say, this is what I learned.
Yeah.
Got
I think almost everybody could improve on the first.
it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, I mean, like, we don't have, like, what Chelsea was saying is, like, originally, I thought it was like, here's my original paper, wrong, new information. But,
Yeah.
it's just like a paper about what we learned and addressing what we used to think was right.
Yeah, addressing what was in the first paper.
But we don't have to like actually paste it into the new paper and be like, look at
No,
all this
no,
wrong
no,
info.
no,
Okay.
no. But it has to, there's a correlation
Yeah,
between
yeah,
those
yeah.
two
Because it's
things.
the same subject matter.
Yeah, and because I made you do that paper, so that you would,
Disappointed.
so that when I gave it back to you, you would know what you thought
Right,
at the beginning.
instead of
And then
just
what you
being like,
know
oh,
now.
I thought this all along.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Mm.
Or that the vocal folds only vibrate in the middle.
I think I said that word for word in my first paper.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so I have those if you guys want them.
Ooh, uh-oh.
So if you want like 6 weeks or whatever to do it, just come get them after class, okay? All right. So let's finish the chapter that we didn't get to finish, and then we'll do review, and then we'll probably be done early, okay?
Great.
Alright. And then for, I have one of the presenters that was gonna come, but they canceled, so they're not coming to talk. So I have to find some like other things to do. No, it was a physical therapist gonna talk about TMJ.
I
Oh,
know,
I
I'm
have team
really
I know.
but I've
thinking
never actually talked to anyone about it.
for,
I know. So, a lot of opportunities too, because we open our mouths around, we do that. That's it. But anyway. So, I'm going to find like some articles we're going to read and have like 20-minute discussions about, okay? That's it. And they're a little bit more pedagogical than physiological.
dun, dun,
But we're gonna-
dun.
But we're gonna talk about how
Really?
fact-based pedagogy works, okay?
Fact-based,
Yes.
irrefutable.
So like,
Not
if you just
irrefutable.
feel your breath bouncing like a balloon on Mars.
Right, that is not fact-based pedagogy. Okay, great. And I'll spread those out over the class so that things are it won't be too bad. Alright, so let's go back and listen to these examples, okay? Of the cover stuff that we kind of rushed through. So there's this one.
Chris, did you find that example of the tenor hitting the low G and then the high C? Did you find that in the book called Tenor,
No.
History of the Voice?
Yeah, how'd you find that? Because we literally just flipped through this book and we were like, oh, look at this, and then we looked it up on
It was the
YouTube.
same guy.
There
It's
was.
like this book
We listened to
that's
it like a month ago.
this book that like goes through like the entire like history of the tenor voice and like every different plot, and then gives like really obscure
That guy's like a legend.
examples of like people doing like pushing the limits of thought. And that was like one of the ones where Jack was like, dude, you gotta hear this. It was very loud.
The legend.
So what he does when he goes up to the top is Dr. Keith's not here, so I can talk about it. But he shortens his vocal tracts so that he can sing the super high note, right?
It's like-
He goes like, ah, basically, right? And then for the low note, he makes it really long, so he can sing it.
He shortens his tract.
So that his resonance is higher.
There's low, so if we're gonna like call that basically like male belting, does like what would like balanced low larynx male belting be? Good opera singing?
We're gonna talk about belting in a little while. Okay, we're still talking about covering stuff. Okay, so let's listen to this example. Gotta turn it on. So just so we remember what cover sounds like. Hang on, sorry. I have my microphone on, so.
Yes, please. Oh, Cody. It's Mozart and
Yeah,
Swine from
yeah.
Movies.
Yeah, Jenny.
So when they
The
cover,
second one is not.
they're just changing the harmonics that are occurring by changing the vowel and the resonances of the vocal tract.
No, can somebody tell me, harmonics is the wrong word.
Formant.
Formants, right, they're two different things.
So when,
So, okay,
You just stop hearing the harmonic, right?
So the harmonic changes how it's amplified, right?
Like in the singer's ear, we just stop hearing the harmonic, or we stop hearing fundamental?
It happens naturally,
Right.
okay? So, but, yeah, Chelsea?
I will wait till you answer Michael's question,
Okay.
it's related.
Let's just listen to it right now, and when we go through, I'm gonna do like some modeling with that program and everything, and that might explain a little bit better. Yeah, Chelsea?
So when you say that it happens naturally, do you mean that like nothing is changing at the folds, but the tract itself is changing and that's what's creating cover or not creating
The
cover?
pitch is changing, right?
Well,
Okay,
I
so
don't
if we
get that
have-
if cover is something that happens naturally, then why does everybody have to work on it?
Because we all don't wanna do it. Cause everybody wants to yell, they wanna move their formants so that they get more amplitude. So, remember, if we have like a vowel, then we have like say it looks like this, okay? And then we put the power spectrum in it, if we're gonna sing like this.
I don't understand what you mean when you say power spectrum.
Power spectrum, remember, we talked about it in the first chapter.
Yes, can you remind me?
Yeah, the power spectrum is the prism of the sound, where you put the sound waves through it and we can see all of the overtones.
Okay, so what is the one called where you like see it, the time is what's on the x-axis?
Spectrograph, yeah.
Okay,
Which is, it's a power spectrum, but over time.
yeah, and the power spectrum is what's on the x and what's on the y?
For this, yeah.
No.
Because this is which one?
I know, I'm asking a question, what is on the x and what is on the y
For
of the
this?
power spectrum?
This is pitch, so this is frequency, and this is amplitude.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah, no, it's okay. Okay, so these are the overtones, right? This is the fundamental, first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonic, okay? And we get different amplitudes depending on what the formants are doing on top of it, right? Okay, and so we hear this one. So if we move this fundamental up, all of the harmonics above it move up too, right?
But that's just,
Let's-
that's changing the pitch, right?
Yes. But this is why cover happens. So if we have this, and we're gonna move this one up to here, okay? Do you see how it's gonna sound like a different vowel now? Yeah. Because the amplitudes of these fall in different parts of the valleys.
And this is basically considered you're keeping the same general vocal tract position and
Yep.
not like lifting your larynx as you get higher.
Because we all wanna lift our larynx as we go.
Right, but we do it because people have terrible tendencies, right? And so this is like in an ideal, like natural with no like desire to like shout or like be loud or be heard or have a certain color, right? No bad habits, this is what happens.
Yeah, exactly. You keep your tube the same length because of the resonance that happens in it, right?
Exactly.
Any more questions? Well, I'll explain this a lot more. I just want to listen to the examples right now so that we can hear what the cover sounds like, okay? So let's listen to that one more time. So we're going up. That one sounds covered. Not covered. You hear the difference, Jay? So the reason the second one wasn't covered is because he didn't keep his vocal tract the same length. So he moved his formant.
Well, and that's like the whole concept of the passaggio, right, is that there's like areas where like one or the other can happen, right?
And you,
Yeah, so passaggio, remember that passaggio changes depending on which vowel you're singing, right? So if you're singing E, you cover lower than if you're singing A.
Right.
Because the shape of it looks different, right?
So in that, when you cover, you're changing the curvy thing, not the power spectrum.
No, you're not changing the curvy thing.
But you said the formants. You said you changed the vocal
He
track,
did.
you changed the formant.
He changed the formants.
And aren't formants like the vocal track that affects the vowel?
Yes. Because one of the notes he sang was covered. Sorry. One of the notes he sung was covered and one of the notes wasn't. And it was the same F sharp.
but the reason that happened was because he just chose a different vowel.
What does he actually physically do to change the vocal track? Is that a higher larynx or is it just
Different vowel.
a different
Well,
tongue?
okay, so what moves the formants?
But like changing the vowel is, I mean, technically should just be the tongue, but if you're changing, is that all it is?
There's two things that change the formants. We learned about them. You put them on the test.
The shape, articulated.
So your tongue is one of them. What's the second one?
Mouth.
The two.
The opening of your mouth. Okay? And so that can be in the back of your mouth or in the front of your mouth. Remember? So, like, pushing your tongue farther forward opens the back of your mouth. Makes it wider. And that moves the formants, right? So because remember the formants are made by the different resonating tubes in the vocal tract. There were like the 6 or 7 of them, right? And so when we change the length of those tubes, we're changing where the formants are. Of the little tubes inside the big tube.
So like anything that goes like from here down has nothing to do with change of vocal track. Like that would
Like
have
below your vocal folds.
No, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, like if your larynx is higher, that has nothing to do with the sound quality.
If your larynx
With
is
the
higher,
opening- With the opening covered sound, I mean, that's just the tongue and the mouth is what we're talking about. You know
the
what I'm
open and
saying?
covered sound is, let me show you with my. Okay, before we go and talk about this, let's do it through the voice program I was using before. Remember that Mata thing that was like the, yeah, Danny.
Okay, so he changed the formant, so he changed the bumps that there were.
Okay, don't worry about that right now. Let me start over
Okay,
from
you
the
just
beginning.
gave me 2 different answers, so I'm trying to figure out which one.
I gave you an answer built on another one.
Well, you first told me no, and then you said yes. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Okay, the harmonics don't change if it's covered or not covered. The formants change if it's covered or not covered.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so if we had this diagram, or this computer program. Do you remember this one, guys? Okay. So remember that I would play the fundamental pitch would be this like black line there, and the red bands are the formants, okay? So if I play this one, it's gonna sound like A, because that's what it looks like. Okay. So all of the harmonics and overtones that fall in these red bands are going to be amplified, and the ones inside of them are going to be de-amplified. Okay? It is exactly what we were doing with this thing. And having these in here, right? So the humps are the formants, and the valleys are the.
The harmonics don't change, it's just where, if they're amplified or not according to the formant.
The harmonics change if you move the pitch.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And the formants change if you move the shape of your vocal tract. Right. Okay, good. So if I play this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up the scale and you're going to see the third one go through the first formant and hear how it changes what it sounds like, okay? But it sounds covered after it goes through, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna try it with a whole scale through it, okay? And you can hear the difference. You'll really hear it when it goes through the second harmonic. And that's mostly when we're talking about passaggio things for male, okay? Now it's covered.
Did it start when I covered it like A though, because that's where it like sounded like, there was like a.
No.
Or am I just not hearing that right?
Well, I guess that would make.
Yeah, it will. So
So
it's
you
all,
said it was like gradually becoming, is that?
yes, because it's about the second harmonic going through the first formant. Okay,
We're not talking about feeling change, we're talking about
So-
hearing.
does that make sense to everybody? Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that can't hear it?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I don't know. It's hard. This computer program is not simulating a specific male voice type. It's just general.
This one is set up to do bass baritone.
Bass baritone. Interesting.
Because, so I set the formants at like 440, and you would get that one if you had like 17 centimeters long, right? Because we can calculate with the quarter wave resonator length and all that.
Right. Right.
And then you get these are the ones that make it sound like it's A. Because we could also do ah,
Right. You just have to set the formants at different
right?
values.
So like say if I change this one, I change the first one and I've I was just moving the first formant, right? So just see it move.
Wow, oh yeah. This makes more sense now than it did.
Now that sounds like ah, so if I take the second formant, whoops, and I lower it, that's like ah. That's closer to ah than it is to E, right?
Yeah.
Or A. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then, now that I'm at ah or whatever, if I try to go up higher, so say here I'm in the passaggio, what's so hard about covering in the top of the male voice is that your second harmonic is so close to your first formant now. For ah. Okay? Whereas on E, it was already past it. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And if they line up exactly, that's when you crack, right?
You can crack it. It helps you crack a lot because it makes a lot of that
Wait,
interference.
what helps you crack a lot?
If you line them up exactly,
The format in a second.
the formant and the harmonics. Okay. What?
I'm an expert at linear.
Something like that.
What does E look like? Sorry, could you demonstrate moving upwards on E? So is
So-
it like already covered if it's past the first forming, or you just like you
Yes.
cover it lower?
Yes. So remember the graph I showed you? Not that one. This one. So this is where the first formant locations are for each voice type. Okay. So if I'm a tenor and I'm singing E down here, my first formant's going to be right in this box. So it takes up that space of the music staff. It's about that big. Okay. And then if I'm singing A, I think that's A. Yep. So it's E, A, O, U. Okay.
It's not funny, it's obviously not funny.
And so the first formant is a lot higher. So my pitches that are going to start to cover are going to be up higher in my voice.
I'm not.
Because it's an octave above, right? So it's these ones right here. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. So covering is an acoustical thing that happens. It's not something we do, right?
Right.
Okay, good.
You do it when you change the vowel, but the idea is in saying that you're not doing it is that you are really just making a different vowel. You're not singing the identical vowel and then covering it.
Why would you make a different vowel?
Well, I mean, when you say you can't do cover,
Mm-hmm.
you could sing the same note uncovered and covered by changing the vowel.
Yes,
Right.
because you're
So-
moving the format.
So the idea of the phrase "you don't do cover" is really just to dissuade people from thinking, okay, I'm gonna sing the identical vowel, but now I'm gonna cover it. Because really what's happening is you're modifying the vowel to sing the same pitch in a different vocal tract
Okay.
formation.
And some people think covering is going like, oh,
Right.
which is
Yeah,
not.
which is me until
Which
Alex
is-
just said that.
Which is also changing the vowel, but not in the not in the way to make it acoustically covered, just changing it arbitrarily because that's what
Yeah.
they think covering sounds like.
Because covering is, so like if there was a definition that didn't use vowel, what would you say?
Changing the shape and positioning of the tongue and open mouth and vocal tract.
How about use formant and harmonic?
Oh God.
But that,
Changing the form and makeup of the sound. Isn't that what that
No,
is?
it's, so cover is when the second harmonic goes through the first formant.
Or vice versa if you're going uncovering down, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so the thing I was starting to show you at the end of class the other day
Cover is when the second.
is that you can do it with the other harmonics too, right? So, say I go back to, yeah. So I'm gonna go back to A, and if I'm singing, so this is the C on the bass clef, yeah? Right now, my third harmonic is really close to the first formant, right? And so going through that is gonna sound like it covers.
something.
That's the third harmonic.
Okay.
So if I wanna do it with the second harmonic,
Right, that's what I mean.
listen how it
It's the
like
same thing that's-
will cover, and then uncover, and then cover again. Okay, because it'll do the third one, then we'll do the second one.
Got it.
Okay.
I hate this.
Now it'll start covering again. Do you hear it?
To me, it just sounds, the more covered the computer gets, the more high partials there are in it because they're squished together up top because the note is higher.
What's squished?
The
Harmonic.
the harm. I don't know.
Okay, so it has a darker timbre to it, right? The low, when it's higher.
When it's higher.
So this note has a darker timbre than this note. Sorry. Interesting. That's hey. Yeah, where's this one?
It also sounds like the vowel might
Yeah, it
change
sounds
a little bit, like more to A than A. But maybe
Well, it doesn't because it's a computer. But so like you can.
sounds like but then,
Well, it's not going to be exact, right? But I'm going to sing and show it to you too. Okay.
Fair. So that might be more helpful.
Does this happen in the female voice or is this only in the male voice?
This happens in the female voice between you when you change, like at the bottom of the treble clef, where you have to switch between head and chest voice. It's the same thing. Because it's all about going through the first formant, right? If you're getting your harmonics to go through the formant, it happens in the female voice too.
What about the second passage? What's the other one for treble voices?
For women's voices,
Yes,
Yes.
and also treble singers.
Like
so
voice.
that's the different passaggio, right?
Yeah, but does
That's
a
the
similar
secondo
thing
passaggio.
happen?
So why is that one different?
Well, that's
Well,
what he's
that's when
asking me.
the first format becomes really, like.
We're
But
way
now
past the
becomes
first
really
formant at that
complicated.
point, right? So if I have this, so say I'm singing countertenor
Right.
and I sing like a G, my first harmonic, my fundamental pitch is way past the first formant already.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna sound like, it doesn't sound like A at all. Because I don't have the first formant, so I don't have that information.
ah,
Which is why everything turns into past like
it turns into ah because the harmonics are so far apart that we can only hear like 3 of them or so. And so it sounds like ah because that's what our ear deduces from what we can actually hear.
Right. See,
Yeah, Chelsea looks really.
Which is a
I'm
totally,
really confused.
which is a totally divorced concept of the fact that it's very difficult to physically sing up there and form a real E vowel. Is the reason that it's hard to form a real E vowel for treble voices really high because we acoustically don't hear that vowel up there.
We acoustically will not hear E.
yeah, you can only make it so.
But how does that affect the ability to create it? How does someone's ability to hear it affect the ability to create it?
Because you can't sing E because you're singing above the formants that make it sound like E. So you can sing with an E position, but it's going to sound more like ah.
So then teachers will say, don't even bother, basically, because it's not gonna sound like E anyway. If you wanna make a good sound, you may as well just sing ah, because it's gonna sound the same either way.
Well, because if you focus
Got
on
it.
listening to E,
Got
that's
it,
gonna start
got it,
doing
got it,
really bad things.
Okay, you want to sing the one that has the most resonance, right?
With the same-
Right.
So really what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to line up the second harmonic with
So
whatever's
the
happening.
you can't sing E high thing is really like a don't bother trying to sing E high, because it's gonna sound the same, just shittier.
And so if you try to make people do that, they end up going
It's
like,
gonna hurt.
Right,
Calm
yeah,
down.
okay.
and then you're still like, it doesn't sound like E,
Yeah,
because it never will.
because it never will, okay.
What's that?
So, just to clarify, do we want the harmonics lined up with the formants or not?
It's a choice.
Yes, I realize that, that's why I'm asking if we, so, cause at one point during this class, you said when the harmonics are lined up with the formants,
Mm-hmm.
that it can cause cracking
Mm-hmm.
in the voice.
It can.
So is that mean it's a bad thing to do, or does it amplify the sound and like,
So you will probably, I wouldn't worry about that when you're singing as much as just knowing that it can happen scientifically. So because you're going to avoid it and you're gonna know what it feels like if you're going to crack because you do that, okay? And you're not gonna wanna do it. So what you're doing is you're probably going on one side or the other. And remember, like as soon as, so if you're taking a lesson and the teacher tells you to put like eh or ah or a different vowel inside of it, what they're telling you to do is move your formant one way or the other so that your sound works out better.
so that the harmonics enhance the.
So that they either get louder or they get softer, right? Because if we want to sound adult or dark timbre or everything that they were talking about in the videos, we want our first formant to be below our second harmonic. Right?
Mm.
Because that's how it sounds covered. Because it's actually a de-amplification of that second harmonic. Because when you yell, what you do is you shorten your vocal tract and open your mouth and you raise the first formant so that you put the second harmonic in that, and that's actually what belting is.
And so all of these events that we're discussing cover a facade, but that's like, these happen when you're not doing bad things like yelling and shortening your vocal tract and squeezing and doing all kinds of terrible things. These are all like ideal situations.
Generally, yes.
Assuming.
Let's
well-trained-
review really quick. I think there's some confusion. So let's talk about what the 4 different passaggios were, okay? So female voice, there's 2, right? There's the one at the bottom. Can somebody tell me about what that one is? Yeah, and so what's happening at that one?
Switching chest voice to
Chest
head
voice,
voice
chest
function.
voice.
Yeah, chest voice to head voice, right? And that's the same place where a lot of this cover stuff happens for male voices, okay? Except male voices stay in chest voice the whole time. They don't switch physiologically what's happening with the way that the folds are coming together, right?
It just tilts and
Yeah, or whichever one you want to do. So then for this female voice, there's the secondo passaggio, which is where
like
Top
E
and
natural.
side.
at the top. And that's the one we were talking about, why it sounds like ah all the time, right?
Yeah.
So when we listened to the Rosenkavalier trio, and she was singing een, and it sounded like ah, right?
Right.
It was because the harmonics were so far apart that it sounds like ah to us.
And also because she probably decided to sing
Yeah.
opera.
Yeah, because she would.
Yeah, she probably moved it around too, because she knows
Because she knows
that you
that
can't,
E is a futile.
it's cute.
Got it.
Okay. So she was moving the formants, probably the second formant and the singer's formant, to line up with how she wanted to tune that vowel.
Right.
That's why everybody says it's gonna be some vowel, you know? A lot of teachers will say that it's not like ah, but it'll end up sounding like ah.
Got it.
But it's not exactly ah, you know what I mean?
Right.
If you listen to him. Okay. Then in the male voice, there were two passaggios, right?
Primos.
Oh, yeah.
And so the first one is,
They're short, they're closer together.
they're closer together, yep. And it's because of the different vowels, mostly, right? So E and A, the closer vowels, will cover lower, and ah covers higher,
Yeah.
because the format's farther away. So we
The
have to
male one was called primo too.
Mhm. And that one is not physiologically changing anything, right? Yeah? Cool. Alright. So if we were doing this with, do you want me to demonstrate me singing with how it sounds covered now?
I think we get it now.
But I wanted to do it again. So we can do that, or we can listen to the videos and then talk about belting and all that stuff.
I would like to hear real,
Well,
real,
whatever you think is gonna help us do
I would,
more
Yes.
success, have more success on the exam, last quiz.
You should be learning this for your own study.
I would
Also
love
math.
to say that I'm learning for this for my own study, but I need to pass this class.
You're gonna pass. Everybody's gonna pass. I'm setting it up. Just give me a second. Okay.
Do we talk about the second men's Sasagio?
Yeah, it's the higher one because the vowels change, right?
Is that one called the second one?
It's really confusing because they have the same name, but they're two completely different things. Yeah.
Are we going to have to explain this on the quiz?
Yeah, it's all about this stuff.
Like, are we gonna have to explain it using our own words, or is it gonna be like multiple choice?
It'll be like the first sound test.
Oh, I definitely.
I definitely do.
But I fell asleep way too
So it'll be short answers.
Short answers.
sorry.
Yeah, generally. I'll be a little more leading than I was the first time, but because that seems to work better for you guys. But I mean, we haven't gone through the review yet. I'm still like explaining things to you. So you'll know what's on the test, we just haven't done it. Okay, so if I had this. Is it not working? Okay, I think it's working now. Okay. So this is the power spectrum, right? So on the y-axis, we get what?
The amplitude?
Yep, x-axis is,
Is x-axis like vertical? That's y-axis. So it's like the frequency.
x-axis is horizontal.
Oh.
So it's frequency, right? So this is frequency,
Wait. So
This
I
is
was right.
frequency.
X-axis is the bottom, yeah. And then y-axis is the decibels.
Yep. So if you notice, this goes up to like 4,000, right? So we can still hear, we can hear up to 20,000. Yeah, but this one only goes up to 4,000. I actually have another one that goes higher, but, and then this is our decibels. So if I'm going to sing into this, if I sing, do you see how it looks?
That's the,
Okay, and ah is different, right? Ah. Okay, so the first formant is higher because it's up here, and the other one is a little bit lower.
Can you do it again?
Mm-hmm. So this is E. E. So we get a low first formant, and the second formant's about here.
A low first format.
Yep.
Will you do it again?
Low.
Remember, this is pitch. So if it's farther this way, it's
Oh,
lower.
low in pitch.
Yep.
Okay.
E. Okay, and then ah. Ah. So the formant's going to be where it curves, like right here. So ah is about here, and E is about here,
Will
right?
you sing E to ah without stopping
Mhm.
so we can see the?
E. I.
that's cool.
Okay. covering is when these harmonics, the little spikes, right? Each spike is a harmonic. Goes through the formants. So if I do like a glissando, you'll hear it. So, I'm singing really bad, we all just sang an opera last night, right? But that one is more covered than when it's straight in the middle, and I'm not changing my tube length, right? Okay. So if I do it with the ah, the same thing's gonna happen.
Again.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. So the covering is the harmonics going through the formants. And you hear it because you hear the amplification in it go up and down. Okay?
I need to ask you, can you do that one more time?
Does one of the girls want to sing?
Yeah, do girl voice.
Can you,
It doesn't matter how good you sound.
can you do that one more time though?
Yeah.
Just what you did so I can listen to you better? So you're saying it sounds more covered at the top?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So at the bottom it's going to sound more like e, and at the top it'll e. That's me changing the vocal track length
Right.
to show you what it would
Right. I believe you.
do. Okay. You don't hear it?
I kind of do. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't put me on the spot.
So if I do ah. Okay. Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very-
You see it go like ah. Right.
It's hard, it's a very chicken and egg thing with me though, because it's sort of like, I only can identify cover in it because I have been listening to singing without the science and been noticing where the cover is, you know? So it's, I feel like if I wasn't clear on what the sound of covering was, it would be harder to understand the science behind this.
Sure. Yeah. But you would also understand it from a different, like a really scientific standpoint. All of you guys understand it from listening to music and how it happens, right?
Right.
And then they were like,
If you
oh,
were to
this
do
is what
that-
actually happens.
If you were to do that technically incorrect,
Mhm.
like ah, and just keep going like that, that's because you're changing the
Formant. Watch.
formant to.
So it'll stay amplified the whole.
Okay. You do it on ah, because it's easier to kind of. Yeah. Like what happens? Does it get less sound or like less? Is it just a vowel change when you're, when it doesn't like? Because you can just go up and not.
Mm-hmm. So that's what young singers do. That's why they don't
Yeah.
sound like adults, right?
Right.
They go up and yell.
And so technically they're just shortening the track.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you shorten the tract, right, the resonance goes higher.
And you're shortening the track with just your tongue and your mouth.
Probably your larynx.
And your larynx. Okay.
You're
so
usually
larynx,
raising your larynx when you do it. That's why raising your larynx is so bad.
so larynx can change the vocal track.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Did
what I
I
was
say-
asking earlier.
I
I
guess
was
it's
like,
confused
okay,
with what
cool.
you're asking. Yeah, so if I raise my larynx, it shortens
that
my
makes,
vocal tract.
okay. That
It
makes
changes
sense.
like everything. That's why everybody's so much about like lowering your larynx.
Cool.
Yeah, Jay?
So, of all the things we've been discussing today, I feel like a basic principle is that as the pitch, as we lower or increase as we increase or decrease the frequency, we can change our vocal tract, therefore changing our formants to enhance the harmonics of that particular frequency.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't always want the loudest harmonics.
Well, of course.
Okay. Because that's how you get the yelling thing, right? So the cover sound for men comes from the fact that they're past the first formant. And so in women's voices, when you're up higher, it sounds like ah, because there's not definition of the formants, because
That's
you're,
why I say enhance, not like increase.
yeah, or change or something. There might be a
Like
better-
enhance just makes better, doesn't necessarily mean makes louder.
So we want the formants generally to stay kind of in the same place. We don't wanna mess with them so much. Or like when you do belting and stuff, you do mess with them. Okay. We'll talk,
We don't wanna mess with the formants, isn't that the whole point of this thing, is that the formants change when you change the vowel?
yes.
Okay. Keep going.
But that's not really like messing with, that's just the vowel change.
It's not a big messing with, it's a small messing with. So if we wanted to sing, so if I'm going to sing an A flat. Yeah. That should be like right where my cover happens, where my first harmonic hits the first formant.
Yeah, I understand everything else. I was
Okay.
just trying to sum it up. You don't have to answer any more questions. I just wanted
Okay.
that question answered.
Okay. I just want to make sure you get the right idea. Because if I sing higher than that one, it's less, right? It's that my first harmonic is over the first formant, and so it sounds covered. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's definitions and everything in the slides. It's like very that we're going to review. But if we're trying to put it in our own words, that's what's important. Okay. Cool. Whoops.
On the mic was on.
My computer's a little weird, but okay, so at the end of last class, we were talking about how we can go through like the third harmonics can go through and change the cover too. So, I mentioned this, but let's listen to this example. Come on, what about making it brighter? Okay. Okay, I figured you would. So see how the cover changes when he says V feel? It's because the third harmonic is going through the first formant, okay?
Can we hear it again?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. It's another harmonic going through one of the formants because it's lower, right? Because guys have them, when you sing super, super low, the harmonics get a lot closer together as you go up.
So anytime we have an event like that, our perception of vowel slash and or color is going to change. Like we're going to hear that change. Or at least it will be, you could hear it if you were listening for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you want to keep, if you keep your tube the same length, right? So a lot of like amateur singers and singers that don't have it all together, they'll try to change it, right? They'll go V, V, feel. So, except V, right? And you hear how the tone changes? So then those can also happen even lower. Like if we go to this one. I'm looking at the bottom, okay? This is one, and this is another one. Because when you're singing that low, the harmonics are so close together at the top.
Right. It's a different piece of your voice essentially.
So you're going through cover a passaggio,
Again.
even though you're singing like way down low, right? all the way, it's like an A, right? All the way down to the A. There's actually like 4 passages in there, right?
Yeah.
Cool? Alright, let's not get too confused on that, because so,
Basically, all of our voices everywhere.
because there's 2 different things happening. There's also, the overtones are happening and the formants are happening, that's what's important about this. Okay, so this is basically talking about which other crossings you can have for the male voices. This is important for male voices. If you want to talk about this, let me know afterwards and we can talk about it. Because, okay, we did this. This is a really cool graph that shows where you feel resonances for the different vowels.
Hypothetical.
Hypothetically, yes, this is totally pedagogical and not science-based. Okay, this is there's one other thing I talked about. But. So like, if we feel ooh, and we're singing it correctly, we feel the resonance up here farther, and we feel it back there.
Okay, and so this is where I have a question, and this is just like, not challenging anything, but, so, at what point do people's like unique tendencies within shaping the vocal tract take precedence over like a model like this? Like take someone like Marilyn Horne, for instance, who like has a very unique posture to her voice. Like, as a teacher or as like any kind of adjudicator, like where's the line between correct and that?
Well, all of this has to do with how you're interpreting the music, right? We're just talking about the science and how it happens behind it, right? So if you want to talk about how when I sing a high note and I want to sound like I have dark timbre and an adult, I have to know that it's because I'm singing my second harmonic above my first formant. I don't have to know that. You can just intuit it, but that's why it sounds darker.
So this is more like an average, like this is what most people feel, even though they're unique voices.
This exact slide?
Yes.
This is an idea.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because there are people who would like teach this to people.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's weird to me.
And there's a lot of people that this works for. It doesn't work for some people.
Like me.
Yeah, whoever.
Well, I just think that, yeah.
Okay, so, have you guys seen this video talking about how Verdi used different tunings in his orchestra?
No.
Okay. So Verdi wrote this article talking about how he only wanted the orchestra to be tuned to like 432 instead of 440. And we're gonna watch it and I want you to listen to how it would affect registration. So you would probably end up covering at different spots, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd be going through the formants in different places.
Rusch sagte, es ist mir egal, ob ihr Klebstreifen auf den Fagottinstrumente, auf den Oboen tut. Ihr müsst die Stimmung des Orchesters runterkriegen, sonst sind die Stimmen kaputt und der ganze Sinn von der Oper verloren.
I knew what was required because I knew the music. I knew what you had to have because the music was based on the human singing voice.
Komischerweise fand ich einen Brief von Giuseppe Verdi im 1884, wo er schreibt genau, was der Lin sagt. Er sagte, es gibt wissenschaftliche Gründe, warum wir zurückgehen müssen zur, was er nannte, A432 Hertz.
Most of the leading singers of that time, who were leading singers at the time, all joined our defense of this tuning against the higher tuning, which is actually very destructive.
Als sie reinkam, war natürlich das Publikum total aus dem Häuschen, weil die so berühmt war.
Mi basso estremamente perché non è giusto per i giovani che non si devono fare avanti in questa maniera, presi da una scuola, dopo tanti anni di studio, sbalzati improvvisamente in un palcoscenico che può essere quello della Scala, quello di Milano, quello dell'Opera di Vienna, dove si trovano con un'orchestrazione così alta, sono perduti.
Das gleiche passierte mit Piero Cappuccilli.
Entra Piero Cappuccilli.
Okay, so listen to him sing and what his voice does with cover.
Devo dire, se
all'inizio, all'epoca di Verdi, il diapason era 4,32 e lui ha scritto le opere su quel diapason, logicamente Verdi, che era una persona molto intelligente, conosceva le voci, aveva scritto per le voci. Vogliamo fare un esempio?
Es bleibt in zweiter Linie. Auch die Farbe, er sagt auch die Farbe, auch die Farbe.
See how it sounded different? Because it was tuned lower?
Well, what do you mean different? We didn't listen to him do it the first time.
Is that, okay, so it didn't sound like super bright or something like that.
We'll just
He,
be like,
he only sang it lower.
imagine like singing all of your rep like a half step down. It'd be awesome.
A little
Yeah.
less than.
It's less than a half step, but it's,
Nonetheless.
right.
But,
But, okay, so why is it awesome in terms of registration?
well, I mean, it would, okay.
You don't have to live in your covered place all the time, meaning you have more freedom to choose actual distinct vowels rather than picking vowels that keep you in a safe vocal place that are all sort of the same.
Yeah.
But it's also, if it's like written for a certain type of voice, and like, you know, my F is gonna sound different than like Alex's or Jack's, and Verdi was writing with that in mind, like how a certain kind of voice functions, then like the way that we approach all notes is gonna sound, it's gonna be way different. It's
Right. But, yes, I think the biggest point to come from this is that you wouldn't be on the extremes of that cover position. You would be flirting with it rather than like way on the other side of your format. Do you know what I mean?
Right, but as
And it changes for everybody's voice, right?
and
So
as
if you were
we
singing
all
it out,
know, like it's, I mean, we're like splitting hairs in terms of like the margin of like what the difference maker is for
Mhm.
us vocally.
Mhm.
That sounds like that would make a huge difference.
it does make a difference.
And also Verdi's notorious, especially for his baritones, and I guess tenors of writing just on the passaggio, so
Mhm.
if it's like half of a half step lower, then it really is a game changer, because all of the rolls just sit right on the passaggio.
Because it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And he also didn't write for huge
Voice step
theaters.
That you would use, I mean, some like, especially for tenors, like the voice step would change by half steps.
And
You're
probably,
like saying it's this voice step, or they should be saying this, like where the voice turns.
Yeah, maybe.
and also it's probably why there's a Fach for Verdi baritones, because there's such a specific thing, especially if you do it 440, only very specific baritones can do that,
Yeah, it's really hard because it's right on the edge of it.
because it's written in that way.
Cool.
So with that,
I just thought that was interesting.
Why would that not be like a standard thing?
Too much money?
You know, like Baroque tuning is a thing, right?
I don't know why it's not a standard thing. Well, so the big difference is the wind instruments, because you have to make them for like 440. And so they actually, like when they go back, they have like instruments like from box time and everything, and that's part of the reason they know that the tuning was so much lower, because they have like flutes and things that are at 390.
And just look different.
Yeah, because they're different lengths. Because the length of the tube is what determines the resonance, right? So you can put the reed on it and go up and down a little bit, but you're not gonna change it for like a whole step. You know, you have to make the instrument for that. And also like our violins played with steel strings instead of gut strings and all that stuff that they would have used in Verdi's time. So the orchestras would have been quieter. Yeah, it's all acoustic science stuff. Whoa. Okay, so we talked about yelling. So this is like difficulties with the passaggio. There's two different ones. There's nasality and yelling. So most young men want to raise the first formant to go with the second harmonic, right? Ah! We've all heard freshman singers do that all day. Okay, so that's how we get the strident brassy sound, because we get more resonance up top, and that's why they don't sound like adults, right? Cool. Nasality, if you add nasality to the sound, you actually lengthen the passageway of your resonator, right? So if I'm singing, oh, I'm changing where my formants are. Yeah. And so you can, it sounds horrible. I mean, because if you like sing a high note and then you add nasality, you go, that's part of the reason why you don't add a lot of nasality when you're singing. Because it totally changes your vocal tracks, right?
Because it sounds horrible.
Because
Sounds horrible.
you know. I love it. Okay, so reinforced falsetto is not scientifically a real thing. Okay, it's a term that a lot of people use for like reinforced head voice or something like that, but it doesn't exist in science, right? We only get the modes. We get mode 0, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. It's because you can't switch from mode 1 to mode 2 in a sustained note. You can't have like falsetto that has chest voice in it. You can just be close to either side of those, right? Like we talked about last class a little bit. You can measure it with the EGG meter and it is super clear which mode you are in. That's why they're so definite about it. And remember with the EGG meter you can tell how open how much contact there is between the vocal folds. Yeah, okay. So reinforced falsetto is usually really just chest voice really quietly on a high note with some kind of change in resonance. Okay? If anybody ever asks you about reinforced falsetto or something like that, then you know. What time we got? Okay, so belting is mode 1 phonation, really, really high. So you can do that and you change the resonance. And the vowels are adjusted to avoid the passaggio. It's always like bright and brassy because we get a lot of like amplification of the harmonics, right? Because the more amplification of the harmonics we have, the more brighter it sounds, right? The second harmonic is in unison with the fundamental. Okay. Or, wait, second harmonic is in unison with the first formant. So that means that you're singing right along those. You're taking what men have the problem with in their cover and just moving that up and down by changing the vowel with the note and everything. That's why they say like, ah, because you change the first formant. You shorten the vocal tract, you raise the larynx, and you narrow the pharynx. Actually, that's like super advanced when you use your constrictor muscles to narrow the pharynx, and that helps you belt even higher. You spread the lips because you get higher formants, and that's how you get up to the highest notes, right? Cool. Awesome. And then, yeah,
So is belting healthy? Can you do it healthily?
yes. You can do it very unhealthily too.
Well,
Something's not
Yeah.
helpful.
Because remember, it's using your chest voice in a very like stretched, really close to falsetto range. So what you're doing is you're having like the intensity of the thicker folds hitting together faster at the higher frequencies, right? Because there's a big difference between them hitting at 220, you know, the A on the bass clef, and then the A on the treble clef that's 440. That's twice as many times a second. You know? And so if you sing the whole night, that's a lot of difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mixed register for like a treble voice is like the opposite of cover, right? So we're basically just thickening up our head voice mechanism, and so making it more similar to chest voice.
To go down? Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it just gets so lax that you can kind of seamlessly go into the other. And that's like why we can gliss up and down and like not have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like if I can go,
Oh, so devoid of pressure.
you can do it on the gliss. You can't do it on one note. So if I sing, you can't do
Okay,
it.
yeah, okay, I see what you mean now, yeah.
Unless you're.
So if you're going to
Content.
diminuendo or crescendo from like one of your extremes going to another extreme, you have to do it either in chest voice or head voice from the onset.
Yeah, you can actually switch, but you can make it sound like it's reinforced falsetto, right? By being like really quiet chest voice. It can have that quality to it, but it's not actually that way. Okay? Because we're talking about it scientifically rather than in practicality and how it sounds.
When you say you can, it's also like some people are just very, very good at covering up that switch and singing.
You have to do it over changing notes.
Like if you're
I mean,
gonna-
I've heard someone like have it in like a full sounding and then bring it down and obviously where it's just a falsetto, but it doesn't go.
Yeah.
You know, they're just very good at covering up that little.
But there's gotta be a blip in there somewhere.
Could we, for example,
When you hear-
listen
But
to?
it's
Somewhere.
only like minuscule blip.
Could we check out one of like the Corelli Diminuendo video?
Absolutely.
We look at it some other time, we're kind of running out of time. Okay guys, so we didn't get to talk about the review for the quiz. Do you wanna move it to Thursday?
Yes.
I'll be
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
That means that we have to review on Thursday and then we're gonna start the articulation muscles.
And then take the quiz that we review for next Thursday?
Yes.
What?
That's fine.
Okay,
No,
no?
I disagree. I would rather take it on Tuesday.
Okay, how many people wanna take it on Tuesday?
I don't care.
Chelsea, who wants to take it on, who doesn't care?
Well,
gonna
I
be
would
the
like
same
to take it on Tuesday if you send us like something, a list of what we should be prepared.
Okay, I wrote the review for this, but for this one, I want you to be more able to like apply what I'm saying in the review, okay? So this is not like the physiology test where I just gave you all the terms and you just had to identify them on the thing. So for example, if I drew a graph of this, and I've got an e-vowel, okay, e-vowel,
Yeah.
just pretend. And I tell you, I'm singing this one, and I'm singing this one. Which one's covered? The bottom one, right? Okay, that's the kind of thing I want you to be able to apply, okay? So that you can look at things and talk about how we're saying, but I'll send you the review for it, okay? It's better for us if we do it on Tuesday, honestly. Yeah, Chelsea?
How is that bottom graph being covered different from it just being a higher note? Because isn't that what?
It has to do with the timbre.
But I thought when the things get more spaced apart, that's what happens when the pitch goes higher.
Yep. I'm confused about what you're asking.
So it's hard to tell by graphs like that if the pitch is higher, the harmonics are moving because the pitch is higher, or the harmonics have moved because the formant has changed, or.
I guess what I'm asking is it covered just by the nature of it being a higher note?
If you don't move the formant, yes.
Okay.
Okay, if
Yep,
I did
that answers my
this,
question.
if I changed it and did this,
Well, that's a lower note because it has a lower.
but is it
fundamental-
covered?
I don't know.
Compared to this one?
I don't have any idea because for what I understand to be a covered thing is when the first one goes past the vowel formant, the first vowel.
It's when the second one.
Then I don't. I'll
So that one's
figure it out
covered,
later.
this one's not.
I can't do this.
Yes, when I changed it like
Yes.
that.
Cool.
How can you tell that that's covered?
This one?
The second
Yeah.
is past the first.
Because the most amplification of the formant is not on a harmonic.
Like the highest point
Yeah.
of the formant?
Yeah.
Okay, and the second line is the second harmonic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the like definition, well, the definition of
Because
the,
technically the top one, the second formant, the second harmonic is past the first formant. And
Yeah.
that's
This one's gonna have a brighter sound because it's in the harmonic, in the formant. Does that make sense to everybody? Who doesn't it make sense to? Be really, really honest. Okay, can we talk about it after?
Not today because I have an exam.
That's okay.
But
Let's
any
talk
other
about it at rehearsal or something, or performance.
Sometime. Fabulous.
Okay. So everybody else gets it?
Or don't we have
Okay.
church tonight?
If you don't, I'm gonna put the classes on YouTube so you can review for them and review the thing, and I'll put up the review this afternoon.
so we will have the quiz on Tuesday?
Yeah, we're gonna have it on Tuesday. Is that okay, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll be done with it and we'll go on to other things. Okay. Then we have to learn some more muscle things, and then we're gonna do some of the discussion stuff we talked about. Okay?
Right.
Hey,
Passive aggressive today.
It's just kind of what it's coming from. People should boycott the history test.
Sorry.
Let's let it go.
Here you go.
Everybody fail. Everybody fail.
Joanna, did you study it all?
Joey, I was listening.
Well,
So we have that on lockdown.
so it's,
All right.